Yeah, I've done it. So it starts from Maharaja Prithu and his Antardhana. Ramakrishna Prabhuji also has talked about him. He's a very great devotee. And then he has got another great lineage of sons, which Prachina Bhari, which later he came to be known as Prachina Bhari. And this is the story. And he has got great sons, Prachetas. And they were great in many ways. And because they are, eventually they'll be called as Prajapatis. And they're coming from the lineage of those Prajapatis to increase the mankind. But they also are great because when in the midst of their great opulence, when king asked them to marry, that means to marry and to increase their opulence, increase their material enjoyment, increase their everything for they wanted to, yet they went away to go into very deep meditation. So there obviously there's a purpose behind that. And also it also shows the strength of character of these Prachetas. And that's the reason why Lord Shiva appeared to them, has given them an audience. And Lord Shiva giving them an audience is also, there is a very, very important thing. He appeared with they not being called by their causeless mercy. Lord Shiva appeared, and he glorified Lord Narayana, gave them a very important lessons of life, and then and he also showed them that Lord Narayana is also the object of his own worship. So basically here Shiva told that his object of worship is Narayana. So in that's how the whole the Rudra Gita concept or the storyline starts. In Srimad Bhagavatam, as I told in 4th canto, there are a variety of pastimes that come. So Acharyas also tell here that one other important point, Lord Shiva telling them the knowledge and the very great characteristics and glorification of the Lord Shiva also ensured that he follows proper parampara system. The knowledge that he has got from his father, now he has got the responsibility to give that proper knowledge to the lineage that is going to come and who are going to be responsible in the creation and the expansion of the world. So in that way, Lord Shiva ensured that Prachetas must have a guru, and that guru should be coming from a bona fide sampradaya and bona fide lineage. And he was there, and he was given the task to give that knowledge to Prachetas. So the parampara system is also glorified here. How for any great thing, we need a guru. For any great activity that happens in the scriptures, we see over and over and again, a great personality appears, and then he gives that, right? The very advent of evolution of Srimad Bhagavatam, Ramayanam, wherever you see an entry of a very great personality who takes a turn, and then the whole thing gets whole of the topic gets expanded. So that's how in the Rudra Gita also the same thing happens. While Lord Shiva is glorifying the Lord, Prachetas also get the fantastic knowledge. So today we are the shlokas which I have been asked to cover, or they are pre-Rudra Gita and post-Rudra Gita kind of a scenario. Esye Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Esyedam Devayajanam Anuyajñam Vitanvataha Prachinangrahi Kushairasid Astratam Vasudhatalam. Maharaja Barhisal executed many sacrifices all over the world. He is the Prachina Barhi. He scattered Kusha grass and kept the tops of the grasses pointed eastward. So basically here we have to know that this great Maharaja was a very expert in doing various kinds of fruitive sacrifices. So he was known to do one sacrifice, complete it, and again go to another sacrifice. Sacrifice after sacrifice he was doing. He was like a sacrifice factory. And he was also very good in mystic yoga. So this shloka basically only talks about this, that how this Maharaja was so much involved in doing the sacrifices, which are predominantly within the dharma, artha, kama, moksha realm. So basically, Deva Yajanam, that means he's basically satisfying the demigods, which is also an authorized process, because in Bhagavad Gita, 3rd chapter also, we have been told why we need to worship, please the demigods. So we'll cover that, but the important thing here is Srila Prabhupada, while talking about this shloka, immediately jumps to tell us that in this age, what Maharaja is doing at his time was okay, but even at that time, the important thing is to participate and do the Sankirtana Yajna. So in that way, this topic is of Sankirtana Yajna is connected not by the shloka, mainly by the purport. Sometimes shloka is talks about something, but Srila Prabhupada reveals that shloka in a very different aspect. So this is one of the very good examples of that. In this shloka, basically, we are being told what Maharaja Prachina Bharhi is doing. So the next shloka goes directly to 10 to 40. So now we are in the midst of the famous song. Arthalingaya nabhase namo antarbahiratmane namah punyaya lokaya anusmai bhuri varchase. So here Lord Shiva is telling, oh my dear Lord, expanding your transcendental vibrations, you reveal the actual meaning of everything. You are the all-pervading sky within and without, and you are the ultimate goal of pious activities executed both within this material world and beyond it. It is therefore, I therefore offer my respectful obeisances again and again unto you. So here, simply put, Lord Shiva is glorifying his own object of worship by saying that he reveals himself to the transcendental vibration. And we know the first transcendental vibration is Om Pita Ahamasya Jagato Mata Dhata Pitamaha Pavitra Vedyam Pavitram Omkara Ruksama Ajurevacha. The very sound representation of the Lord, actually, the very first representation of the Lord came through sound vibration. That is Om, and he has revealed everything through that downward. And he is all pervading, and is basically describing the glories and the qualities of the Lord. And this is a very common thread that we see throughout Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is decorated with 94 plus such glorification prayers. 94 sets of prayers are there in Srimad Bhagavatam. It all boils down, they all clearly have one common thread on how do we remember the Lord, and what are the ways the great personalities have remembered the Lord through their glorifications. Because by glorifying the Lord does not get anything, but it's more and more of purification. And of course, in this age, the best form of the glorification is through the Sankirtana Yajna. So that we will cover. So in here, Lord Shiva is just praying like that. And then we have the 70th shloka, tam evatmanam atmastham sarva bhuteshu avasthitam pujadvam grantascha dhyayantascha asakrat dharim. Therefore, O sons of the King, the Supreme Personality of the Godhead, Hari, is situated in everyone's heart. He is also within your hearts. Therefore, chant the glories of the Lord and always meditate upon him continuously. Here it is coming as an instruction to the Lord to the Prachetas. So, O sons of the King, O Prachetas, the Supreme Personality of the Godhead, Hari, is situated in everyone's heart. So he's basically giving them that very good knowledge that we also get in Bhagavad Gita 15.5. And he's also there in your hearts also. And therefore chant the glories of the Lord always and meditate upon him continuously. So these are the three things which are there. And then how do they connect? So one thing, in one shloka we saw that Maharaja is basically getting ready for another yajna, which is in the realm of dharma, artha, kama, moksha. And then, whereas Lord Shiva, one of the greatest of the devotees, is glorifying his own object of worship. And then he, in the form of a guru, is teaching a knowledge and giving a knowledge to the would-be Prajapatis, or would be the great personalities who are going to be the part of the creation of the world, expansion of the world. He is giving them the knowledge. So all these three distinct shlokas, how do they connect in this? So we will get to know if we analyze Srila Prabhupada's purports. So initially, when we see that Prabhupada, when Maharaja is getting ready for another yajna, Srila Prabhupada immediately in his purport starts saying that futility of karmakanda activities with respect to Sankirtana yajna. He says karmakanda activities for this age are not good. Sankirtana yajna is the real thing, and at the present moment, it's important to perform Sankirtana yajna all over the world. And in the next shloka that we saw, Lord Shiva praising Lord Narayana, Srila Prabhupada explains the importance of the Shabda Brahma, because the meaning itself, it is said that he reveals in himself with his transcendental qualities, and Shabda Brahma is known, and Shabda Brahma is the chanting of Hare Krishna, and is also the original source of knowledge. And among many processes of acquiring knowledge, our Praman, the Praman that we follow is the Shabda Praman, the knowledge that coming through Parampara from different gurus as gurus, and gurus when they act as disciples, and how they acquire the knowledge in that very strong Parampara thing comes. And Sarva Vedeshu Drishyati is a very famous the line that comes from Kalisantara Upanishad, when we are given the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. It says that Natha Parataropaya Sarva Vedeshu Drishyati. So in this context, we should understand, from our perspective, the Shabda Brahma is the chanting of Hare Krishna for this age, because this is the one thing that can eliminate the kalmashas of ills of the Kali Yuga. And then Srila Prabhupada goes further to explain that Hare Krishna is non-different from the personality of the Godhead. This is also given in the Padma Purana shloka, which is tells that Krishna's name and form are not different. And the meaning of everything is received through the air, through the sound vibration. Just the way, that's the reason why when we also chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, one of the most important things that they want us to do, Acharyas want us to do, is what? Chant and listen, right? Pronounce the mantra and listen to that mantra, right? Because that's how the mantra gets into our heart, through that sound vibration. So in the third shloka, when Lord Shiva is giving the instructions, then he says chant and meditate continuously. So Srila Prabhupada he picks up the shlokas. Kirtaniya Sadhari is the ultimate state of Krishna consciousness. This is also, when we hear this thing, constantly chant, we can also remember that very important shloka of Padma Puran, where Shiva, because here we are talking about Lord Shiva giving instructions to Prachetas, and the golden rule of bhakti is given by Shiva, who's a very great exalted devotee of the Lord, and supposed to be one of the purest and great Vaishnava. He is giving to Parvati. That is, Smartavya Satatam Vishnu Vismartavya na Jatachit Sarve Vidhi Nishedasyo Rietayor Yeva Kinkaraha. Smartavya Satatam Vishnu, always remember the Lord. And Vismartavya na Jatachit, never forget Lord Vishnu. And then these are the two fundamental principles. And all the other do's, Sarve Vidhi and Nishedhas, do's and don'ts, are actually subservients to these two great principles of always remembering the Lord and never forgetting the Lord. Srila Prabhupada explained also that always remembering the Lord is meditation. This is how the instruction of the Shiva is to the Prachetas, and never forgetting the Lord is Samadhi. So the one state of meditation, the deep meditation, actually takes us to Samadhi. So Kirtaniya Sadahari is a state where it's perfect state to be there. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his Sixastaka also says one of the foundational and ornament like characteristic to all the devotees is the humility. And however, when we look at that shloka, Smartavya sadasam Vishnu Vismartavya na jatati sarve vidhi nishedasyor yetayor eva kinkaraha. So when we talk about that here, the golden rule is that to always remember and not to forget, but all the rules and regulations become servants to that. But that doesn't mean that we don't follow any rules. As a sadhaka practicing devotees, we also need to know. And one important thing Rupa Goswami gives, and Srila Prabhupada quotes him, is Sankhya Purvaka Nama Gana Nadhibi Kala Vasani Krutau. That means here there is a necessary for us to maintain the numerical strength when we chant. That's the reason why Prabhupada in the ISKCON also has given that mandatory requirement to count the number of rounds. It is also there in Chaitanya Charitamrita also, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is leaving to the travels and through the forest. He was also he said that I don't want any assistant. Then he was told that, you know, if you carry all the things that you have to carry on your own, how do you count the rounds? So somebody's telling her, like, this is a very interesting conversation that we see in Chaitanya Charitamrita. That means Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also was a kind of a thing that even though he was constantly chanting, he was also counting. So as we understand the great principles of remembering and not forgetting Lord's name, and we should also know that principle has to be applied in the current age for us with some rules and regulations, and counting is one of the important regulation. So that's the one thing that we need to remember. And Shiva personally offered his praise to Supreme Personality of the Godhead, just as he was taught by his father, Lord Brahma, followed parampara system. This is also a very important point Srila Prabhupada makes it. So for any good or a great thing to happen, there must be a guru. Like in the very lifeline of Srila Prabhupada, the fantastic things that happened because he had got those great instructions from his Guru Maharaj, print books and preach in English, go to Western countries, all these things. The meetings, the exchanges that they had was a very crucial thing for Srila Prabhupada to move on. So these are the three distinct shlokas, and then we'll see how they are connected to Sankirtana Yajna, because ultimately Lord Shiva is telling them to chant, remember the Lord, and glorify him all the while. So Srila Prabhupada in his purports, in all the three purports, very dominantly tells the importance of the chanting, and the very word of Sankirtana is described in Nectar of Devotion. When a person loudly chants the glories of the Lord's activities, qualities, form, etc., is called Sankirtana. Sankirtana also refers to the congregational chanting of the holy name. So we also, when it comes to Sankirtana, of course, the very standard verses are there: Krishna Varnam, Sisa Krishnam, Sango, Pangas, Parshadam, Yajnahi, Sankirtana Prayar, Yajantahi, Sumedasa. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, through this Bhagavatam Shlokam for us, is the founder Acharya, the foundational Acharya, the one who has started the Sankirtana Yajna. And based on his blessings and based on his prediction, based on his prophecy, things are going on for the spread of the holy name of the Lord. And of course, after hearing so many ill effects of the Kali Yuga from Shukdev Goswami, Parikshit Maharaj is known to have gone into some kind of, some kind of an anxiety that he had got, my God, if Kali Yuga is going to be like this, how are going to people live? So Shukdev Goswami assures through the shloka, Kale doshe nidhi rajan asti eko mahan gunaha kirtanadi eva krishnasya mukta sangha param raja. These are the very famous shlokas that we all know. It basically again makes us remember that Kali Yuga, there is one good thing, that Kirtana will take us, and it gives us the very, it releases us from the bondage, and we can be promoted to the transcendental kingdom. And of course, the Yuga Dharma, Kali Yuga Dharma is Kritiye Dhyaito Vishnum, Tretayam Yatito Makai, Dwapare Paricharyayam Kalau Tat Hari Kirtana. This is also another very famous sloka. And Srimad Bhagavatam also ends with saying the glories of the holy name and how they have to be carried forward. Nama Sankirtanam Yasya Sarva Papa Pranashanam Pranamo Dukkha Shamanaha Tam Namami Harim Param. So wherever there's an opportunity is there, Srila Prabhupada quickly introduces the concept of the Sankirtana. And there's a difference between japa and kirtana that we do. Japa is a prayer for our own thing. We do it for ourselves. It's a very exclusive prayer, our own individual prayer to the Lord. And kirtana is performed for others and in the presence of others. But in Padma Purana very clearly says, for any person who is chanting the holy name either softly, that is japa, or loudly, the path to liberation and even heavenly happiness are at once open. So there is, in terms of the ultimate benefit, japa and kirtana are almost the same, but they have two separate sub-purposes of doing it. One is a very exclusive prayer, and kirtana is a call response thing. So where is the words kirtana and sankirtana are described? Srila Prabhupada in the Science of Self-Realization book, it's very clearly defined. It's important to know this definition, because when we say Sankirtana, what does that Sankirtana means? So the chanting process offered by Lord Chaitanya for achieving the love of God is called Sankirtana. Sankirtana is a Sanskrit word that comes from samyak, that means complete. Kirtana means glorifying. That means complete glorification of the Lord is Sankirtana. So the complete description means complete glorification of the Supreme, or the Supreme complete whole. So it is not that one can describe anything or glorifying anything and that will be kirtana. From a grammatical point of view, it may be right, but from a scriptural point of view, some kirtana means it only has to be glorification of the Lord, and some kirtana, when we do in the call response form, it's a complete glorification. And the devotional service, what we do, of course, begins with Shravana. We have the 9 process of bhakti, which was given by Prahlad Maharaj. And Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnoho is there, and Srila Prabhupada explained that. And it's also for us to importantly note that among the 7 purposes of ISKCON, Srila Prabhupada, in the 4th purposes, very clearly gives the word Sankirtana to teach and encourage the Sankirtana movement, the congregational chanting of the holy name of the God, as revealed in the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So the way Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has revealed is what we need to carry on as the Sankirtana movement. So since Lord Shiva is also telling Prachetas the same thing, asking them to meditate, and when Prachetas elders were doing the yajnas for yajnas as a form of pleasing the demigods and as a part of sacrifice, Prabhupada is telling that Sankirtana yajna is very important. So in that way, the connection between those 2 shlokas and purports happen, and Sankirtana yajna, this is the thing. And after this ISKCON got incorporated in 1966, when Prabhupada went to America in 1965, if you see in the 50 plus years, the Kirtana has grown a lot in ISKCON. There are so many Kirtana festivals that happen. This is just to give us a feel. I've tried to collect and compile the Kirtana calendar. The present ISKCON Kirtana calendar, if you see, these are the major ones that we picked up. And if you see, practically every month, there is somewhere in some part of the world, there is Kirtan festival going on. So this should be a very pleasing thing for Srila Prabhupada to see the Kirtana movement, the Sankirtana Yajna that he has established in the US in a very small, humble manner, has now grown in a multi-fold, in a multi-directional way. Sankirtan is also called book distribution. Particularly in the Western countries, they don't call it book distribution as book distribution. They call it as Sankirtan. They call it Sankirtan in some places. This is a book distribution. So book distribution is Sankirtana. Kirtana means glorification. Some means complete, as we just now noted. Glorification of Kirtana, Krishna is complete when many devotees participate. Also, complete glorification means glorification not only of Krishna's name, but also his form, qualities, his pastimes, his entourage, his paraphernalia, everything related to him, that is Krishna. So this is the words of His Holiness Giriraj Swami Maharaj. Distribution of Srila Prabhupada books is a complete glorification of Krishna, because Srila Prabhupada's books glorify Krishna fully, his name, form, qualities, pastimes, and so on. So when we hand over the book to somebody, when we talk about something which we have read in the book, when we encourage people to buy book, when we encourage people to read books, we are participating in that Sankirtana Yajna which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has started. which Chaitanya, by the prophecy, Prabhupada also fulfilled that. So just to give the context on how important is this book distribution Sankirtana for ISKCON, is that, you know, in since 1965, by the 2014, Bhakti Vedanta Book Trust had distributed 500 million books. So the count keeps on growing, and the book Sankirtana Yajna is always there. And we also, all of us have the responsibility to not only participate in the Hare Krishna Mahamantra Sankirtan, Hare Krishna Mahamantra Japa, and also participate in Sankirtan in terms of book distribution. From a Bhakti Vaibhav context, it is not only book distribution, it is not only reading Srila Prabhupada books, but it also studying Prabhupada books, because you are all very serious students of Srimad Bhagavatam. I don't have to emphasize that, but there's always a difference between reading and studying, right? Today it's very interesting that I have to cover the topic of Sankirtana, because there is a mother of Sankirtana in our Sanatana Dharma, that is Andal. Today it's her Tirunakshatram, that is his appearance day of Srimati Andal. Andal Devi is also known as Goda Devi. She's a very famous Tamil poet, one among the Alvars, and the very nice poem that she has written as Tirupavai, the 30 stanzas, are part of the Divya Prabandham. And in Tirupavai, Andal gives a universal call to all people to recite the names and the glories of the Lord. Andal is one of the most earlier, the great devotees who have basically not only chanted for themselves, called her associates to come along with her, go onto the streets and chant the holy names of the Lord. So in that way, Andal has got Sri Vaishnava tradition has got a very nice connection with ours in terms of the beginning of the Sankirtana Yajna. The inbuilt benefits of Nama Sankirtana can be compared to the characteristic trait of the fire to scorch all those who come in contact with it. That means whether you chant, whatever way you are, whatever mood you have, whatever attitude you have, still you get the benefit. And of course, in Tirupavai, Andal alludes the unlimited power of his various names such as Keshava, Govinda, Narayana, and Damodara. So Andal and other Alvars were also born in Dravida Desha, and why they are born is also described in Srimad Bhagavatam. At the end of Srimad Bhagavatam, when Karbhajana, one of the Nava Yogendras, asks the questions of King Nimi, he basically tells that, you know, the great sages, the people, the bhaktas also want to come to Kali Yuga. You know, Karbhajana says that Kali Yuga, in the Kali Yuga, Vishnu is worshipped through Nama Sankirtana. Many sages who lived in Kruta Yuga, that is, sages and the great personalities who lived in other yugas, also want to be born in Kali Yuga as Vishnu Bhaktas, because they can sing and participate in the Sankirtana Yajna. So they're all there somewhere or other, you know, in different forms. And Nimi asks the Karbhajana, where will they be born? And Karbhajana basically tells they will be born in Dravida Desha along the rivers of Tamraparni and Vagai. And all the Alvars basically were born within those. There are several rivulets and rivers in that region. All of them were to appear there. And of course, Andal Devi also appeared in one of the places called Vaigai. So it's good that today is the day where we are remembering through Bhakti Vaibhav the Sankirtana, and Andal Devi's appearance day also is there, and she should be remembered and known that she was one of the earliest devotees, known devotees in the history of the Vedic, the sub-Vedic literatures that we have, who had basically called upon people to loudly chant the names of the Lord in the streets, and basically she was encouraged and made a very collaborative effort to get all of them into one fold. Okay, so now we go to the mood and mission of what we are trying to learn. Actually, the English definition of mood is a very temporary state of mind or feeling. But in the Bhakti Shastri studies, the way Mayapur Institute helps us to understand is they take away the nomenclature of temporary from there. It's basically the constant state of mood or feeling, particularly with respect to Srila Prabhupada. And the mission is an important assignment given to a person. Like Srila Prabhupada was given an overall mission to print and distribute books, to preach the English language, spread the glories of the holy name throughout the world. Some of the missions that he had got it. So here we are talking about a state of mind or a feeling that Srila Prabhupada is constantly demonstrated. From these three shlokas that we learned, one is the shloka that was there when Maharaja is getting ready for another sacrifice, but Prabhupada explained Sankirtana is most important. And the last shloka that we read where Lord Shiva is telling that one has to meditate on the Lord continuously, chant the holy names, glorify the names. So if you take that into thing, how Srila Prabhupada's mood can be seen in those shlokas. One is we can very clearly see the mood, the very confidence about the success of Sankirtan Yajna. We can clearly see in the purports Srila Prabhupada has written in the 4th canto itself. So when Srila Prabhupada is writing, we can understand from a historical perspective, timeline perspective, when he is writing the 4th canto, ISKCON has not yet fully evolved as what we see today or what ISKCON was seen in the early 80s, right? But Srila Prabhupada had got 100% faith. He was in that mood of success. He's already celebrating the success of the prophecy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the success of the instruction that his Guru Maharaj has given him, because the Sankirtan Yajna has started in the Western countries and is also picking up in India. So that mood of success, that happiness is very seen. And preaching is essence. Srila Prabhupada's mood was always to preach. Whatever may be the shloka, sometimes maybe talking about a particular aspect of a storyline, but Srila Prabhupada takes that opportunity to preach to us, preach to the readers about the importance of much more, importance of a topic which is much more greater, has a greater significance. And mission, Srila Prabhupada, here we can very clearly see, is by telling that Sankirtan Yajna has to be followed, it is the present day's need. Even though the storyline is telling that Maharaja is great and he's doing a lot of sacrifices for the benefit of people, for the pleasing demigods, but Srila Prabhupada actually takes a U-turn and says, no, Sankirtan Yajna is an important tool, and places the importance of Sankirtan Yajna. And most importantly, he uses this as a tool to accelerate the prophecy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to do every town and village, there will be one day chanting of the holy name. And mission of the Srila Prabhupada also is to tailor and encapsulate the philosophy and the very important, very summary of devotional practice into one thing in a one kind of a capsule that we can always easily swallow in a very simple and easy to adopt manner through the chanting of holy names of the Lord through Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So his mission is one is to take the Sankirtan as an important tool to accelerate and to also present it to the world in a way that world can adopt. And that's reason why the very, very exponential growth of ISKCON when compared to other religious societies is because we have adopted the Yuga Dharma. We have, of course, by the power and prophecy, by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada and the kind of strength that he has taken from Acharyas, this Sankirtan Yajna is growing and growing because it has got a very strong Shastric relevance, and it is coming from a very, very strongly aligned instructions coming down through Parampara line. So in that way, we can understand the mood and mission of Srila Prabhupada in these three shlokas. And in the Bhakti Vaibhav thing, we are also asked to identify and explain the difficult points to understand, right? So are there any difficult points to understand? So this is where the reading and studying make a difference. So I picked up few things. So this is one thing that is where, even though I mentioned it before, I will again quickly mention. So the shloka, the first shloka that I told was where Maharaja executed many sacrifices all over the world. He's not a bad person. He's a great king, devoted personality. And then he was about to start another yajna. But Srila Prabhupada makes a complete U-turn there, and he doesn't talk anything about what Maharaja is going to perform and why is he performing, for what reason he's doing there. He makes them completely inconsequential in a way, but he straight away within the first line itself, he gets into the Sankirtana. So a very academic reader, when he sees it, for him it will be very difficult to understand why this person is doing this way, why is he cutting the storyline while he's explaining this, and why he is gone to the Sankirtana. So that's where we need to connect the dots, and we need to also be well equipped to have a well-rounded knowledge about what Srila Prabhupada is talking about, and what would be the overall context on where Srila Prabhupada is leading us when he's taking this kind of a situational references. That's very important for us to know, and that can only be understood if we read, if we study Srila Prabhupada books. This is not only one instance. Even in Bhagavad Gita, 6th chapter also, we find it where Krishna is giving Arjuna a lot of things about Dhyana Yoga. And wherever Krishna, there are shlokas where Krishna says that the Dhyana Yoga means this, a yogi has to do this, he has to go to a secluded place, he has to sit like this, he has to chant like this, he has to remember like this. Srila Prabhupada immediately in the purports actually doesn't talk much about that, what Krishna is telling to Arjuna, but he again goes back to the practical devotional service and the chanting and those kind of things. So somewhere it may look for an academic reader, it's out of place, but it's very important for us to know. And in the next shloka also, that what we Arthalingaya Namase, Namo Antar Bahiratmane. Srila Prabhupada certainly uses a word. If you take the word-to-word meaning and try to frame a translation out of it, one of the most key words are missing from the meaning to what Srila Prabhupada is basically telling. So that also begs a question that also must trigger some thought process in us. Then why Srila Prabhupada is word by word meaning is one thing, and why the translation is a bit different. So here Srila Prabhupada starts saying that by expanding your transcendental vibration, and then you reveal the actual meaning of everything. You are all pervading sky and all those things are there. But by expanding your transcendental vibration, because Srila Prabhupada is trying to put that process of Sankirtana Yajna, that process of chanting of the holy names into the minds of the reader, that this has a higher meaning. And this is how you have to connect that when Krishna says that he will reveal himself, actual meaning of everything, he's all pervading. For us to understand and perceive that, we must know that he is expanding himself as a transcendental vibration, and of course as the expansion of sound, and in this particular age through a mantra that is going to liberate us, and the mantra can be done, chanted and remembered only through sound. So that's why Prabhupada is saying that by expanding your transcendental vibration. And contrast to that, if you take the next shloka, Srila Prabhupada is straight on. Why he's straight on? Because in the shloka itself, Lord Shiva is telling, therefore chant the glories of the Lord and always meditate upon him continuously. So here the shloka is straight on to the whole mood and mission of Srila Prabhupada, and that's why we don't see any new words getting introduced in this Srila Prabhupada. You can easily reconstruct the translation straight from the word to word. So wherever, when we are studying Srimad Bhagavatam, wherever, or even Bhagavad Gita, wherever the word to word doesn't match to this translation, we need to dig a bit deep to see what is the context in which Srila Prabhupada is trying to introduce these new lines or words into this, and then we can get and enjoy and understand more of his teachings. So this is what I wanted to share. I just wanted to ask the organizers how much of time I have.
You have 5 more minutes, Prabhu.
So I'll try to demonstrate one more thing. Just give me one of the other things that the guidelines are also asking us to pick up some of the words, Sanskrit words, and then try to see what are the connections and how to expand. So I picked up few words, but since the lack of time, I picked up the word of demigods. If you see, the demigods is a very interesting topic, because this topic is very much connected with the storyline, because Maharaja was also doing, and in the demigod worship, it is very well authorized. It gets a very good stamping of an authorization for the demigod worship in the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, in the form of Karma Yoga, where it's very clearly said demigods are pleased by sacrifices. Again, we need to again put what is that sacrifice, and what is the time and place of that sacrifice that Krishna is talking about, and then we need to relate to Sankirtana Yajna, that is the perfect sacrifice for this yuga. And then the demigods are told that they are the managers of the thing. And like this, but when it comes to direct information that comes from Srila Prabhupada to Jayapataka Swami Maharaj. So once Jayapataka Swami Maharaj asked, why did Krishna have all the demigod worship put in the Vedas? This is a common question that we have. And Srila Prabhupada said, And Jayapataka Maharaj said, Vyasadeva put all the demigod worship in the Vedas. So Srila Prabhupada very clearly says, for the karmis, Shipram Bhavati. What is that? Kama Kanta. That means the people who are in the Dharma, Artha, Kama, Lobha. Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. Purushardhas. So then Jayapataka Maharaj again asks something, and Srila Prabhupada says, who is interested to take bhakti immediately? Nobody is interested. And Jayapataka Maharaj says they can get their material facilities from Krishna also. Then why still they have to go to demigod? And Srila Prabhupada says, yes, that is recommended. First of all, Shastra recommends that if you want this thing, you worship this deity. In this way, at last it is said that you can get anything if you worship Krishna. And that is said, Akamaha sarva kamova moksha kama udaradi tivrena bhakti yogena. The shloka Prabhupada quotes, and this is for the purpose that if he wants to take advantage, material benefit from Krishna, then Krishna bhajana will be there. Gradually they'll forget this material benefit. They will become pure devotee, just like Dhruva Maharaj became a perfect devotee. Srila Prabhupada here clearly says that you have everything supplied if you follow the recommended process. That is worshipping him in his deity form. There is no need to worship demigods for getting material facilities if it is only meant for karmis. So the demigod worship, Srila Prabhupada gives a very important storyline there. And that's why we have, even though we have deal with so many times in the demigod worship, we need to be very clear. And there is always a question sometimes people ask, when we read Bhagavad Gita, 9th chapter and 7th chapter, very decisive statements about you are less intelligent, it's not proper. So I always tell people that, if Ramakrishna Prabhu comes and says to me, Jagan, you are less intelligent, should I feel good or should I feel bad? Honestly, if I'm intelligent, or if I'm good at least, I should feel good, because he is not telling me that I'm fool. He is only telling that I'm less intelligent. That means I have some intelligence. And since I have some intelligence and he wants me to increase my intelligence, he wants to make me better intelligent person, he's saying that you are less intelligent. So he's basically trying to motivate me, saying that you are intelligent, but you're slightly less in intelligence. So remove that less and become fully intelligent. So get away from this demigod worship, come to the Krishna worship. So that then you will become from a less intelligent to more intelligent. It doesn't mean that less intelligent is a bad thing. Less intelligence is also a good thing, because he's not saying that Jagan doesn't have anything. He says Jagan is having less intelligence. So we should not get hurt, and we should see the context of why it is being told. And similarly, when it comes to pious activities, we have a very foundational shloka that comes in Srimad Bhagavatam, Vasudeva para Veda, Vasudeva para Makaha, Vasudeva para Yoga, Vasudeva para Kriyaha, Vasudeva param Jnanam, Vasudeva param Tapa, Vasudeva paro Dharmo, Vasudeva para Gati. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to speak something about whatever little I know about the subject matter. Again, I thank the organizers, and again, I thank all your patience, because I'm a kind of not your student community personality, but they have allowed me to come here and break in the barriers to share something which I thought I could. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Thank you very much, Jagan Prabhu. That was a wonderful session. And this is a general topic, it is quite useful for all of us, because our moment is Sankirtan moment. We would like to invite some comments from our other fellow devotees.
Hare Krishna, this is Radha Madhava here. Jagan Prabhu, thank you very much The moment I asked you to come in and be as a guest speaker for today, you very kindly accepted it. I'm very thankful for that because I just didn't want people to miss out on the few verses because Priyanka Mataji, who was supposed to take this portion of the verses, she actually withdrew from Bhakti Vaibhava because she has moved to India for good. So she told she will not be able to continue this. And I didn't want others to miss out. And personally, I didn't want to miss out hearing about this verse. So I was just thinking, whom should I approach? Then only name it came to my mind was Jagan Prabhu, because he was earlier doing this Bhakti Vaibhava, even though he has given it up. Actually, I look upon him as my teacher when it comes to the Shastric studies, and always been my inspiration from the very first step I took in the Shastric studies. Jagan Prabhu has actually motivated me to take up the assessments and also has encouraged me to take up this admin work. I'm very, very grateful to him. So even when I told him that just give us a summary, he always kept on insisting that he want to follow all the guidelines given to other students. Today, I'm very happy that he took up that challenge, and it has been a very good learning tool for all of us. And personally, I have learned how I can actually prepare for my presentation. If Prabhu had not followed the guidelines, I would have missed out that learning process. And once again, I would be very thankful to you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Jagjivan Jagannath Prabhuji, Dhanavad Pranams. This was a very scintillating experience. You have put up everything on the palette, and not only as a student, I learned how to actually do a presentation to satisfy on two levels. One is to meet the requirements of this desecration that was actually assigned to as the Bhakti Vaibhava students. And secondly, also, you brought in the very essence of how a Krishna conscious preacher and a successful student of Bhakti Vaibhava must actually adapt. Even though he is given only a 10-minute slot or a 15-minute slot, you made it very clear that it is possible that you can actually do these things. So both through your demonstration and through your skillful maneuvering, you have actually did this as a great inspiration for all of us. So I'm extremely thankful to you for having taken up every anga of what was actually required. And just like how a Bhakti Vriksha has the 7 different angas to make a program complete, so you made this particular session also really very complete. I'm sure every student must have been inspired by this, and they would be doing their own homework now as to how they could be presenting themselves so that assessment could be done also on the proper terms. Thank you very much for setting the standards, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Also, may I request all the participants to at least keep their videos on. This would actually inspire the speaker very much. Otherwise, like they are looking at no one and they have to speak on. If there is no internet issues with you, this would actually help. Your merciful glances helps the speakers to also receive the blessings. So it's like even the previous session I was saying, taking darshan of the devotees are exactly like taking the darshan of the deities, because the deities reside in your hearts. And so do not deny us the opportunity to actually take the darshan of yourself and the deities within your hearts, please.
Hare Krishna, Jagjivan Jagannath Prabhuji, Sachi Yashoda here. Prabhuji, though I have dropped out, your class was very wonderful, extremely wonderful, and the most important thing what I understood from your lecture was not only from the thing, but you also gave from Prabhupada's and even other statistics. I mean, like my Prabhu was saying, it was a complete holistic approach to the theme. We learned a lot today, Prabhuji, from your presentation. Extremely grateful, and thanks to Radha Madhava Mataji for having invited Prabhu to give this lecture. Extremely thankful to you also. You've been doing a great, wonderful job, Mataji, of coordinating. and bringing everyone and ensuring that they all do their studies. Thankful to you also, and to Jai Govind Prabhu also constantly, motivating, encouraging all the students here. Thanks to this wonderful couple, Jai Govind Prabhu and Radhamada Mataji. And thanks again, Prabhuji, Jagjeevan Prabhu, for this wonderful session. Till now, I did not have the good fortune of hearing you to such length, Prabhuji. And Radha Mataji made it possible, at least on this on this virtual session, we could hear you, and you gratefully consented to her request. And it was thanks, Prabhuji. Thanks for everything. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Pranam. Thank you for wonderful class, Prabhuji. Thank you for wonderful presentation. I have a humble request to all the judges that please don't compare my presentation with Prabhuji and give me marks. He's a guest. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you very much.
Well said, Prabhu. Well said. Hari
So
Prabhu.
our comparison is not who speaks. Our comparison is how we read Srila Prabhupada's purports and talk, and that is the nectar. So when we all read Srila Prabhupada's purports and we all talk, we are talking in the same level. My accent may be different, your accent may be different, but all are talking the same thing. So as long as we talk Srila Prabhupada's purports, Srila Prabhupada's explanations, we are all the same. We don't have to worry at all. Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam. Prabhuji, one difference will always be there. We are in this part of the river because we are as students giving exam, and you are with relaxed mood. So that is not the criteria with you, Prabhu. You will agree with me.
I agree.
Mataji, I don't agree with your statement because I know Prabhu has put so much of effort, and today his schedule is so tight, and he was actually trying to figure out how he can actually place, and he humbly requested. And I know the depth, how deep he goes into the subject matter. Even we don't go so much deep into the subject matter. Actually, Prabhu goes very deep, and he has been very nervous. Though he doesn't have to be, I know how much of effort he has personally put. Actually, he has never considered that he's a non-student. From the beginning, he always has considered that he is giving an examination. That is a mood he has always been having.
Anyone else?
Hare Ram, Ram Ram. I think we should move to the next